A security camera is supposed to be a witness. It records what happened so that later, when someone asks how, there is an answer waiting in the footage. Most of the time it works that way. A face, a license plate, a sequence of events laid out frame by frame. We trust cameras precisely because they do not blink, do not forget, and do not lie. But sometimes the camera records everything and explains nothing. Sometimes it shows you the last minutes of a person's life, or the figure who took it, or the strange behavior in the moments before everything went wrong, and it still leaves you with more questions than you started with. A time-stamped image is not the same thing as an answer. The people in these recordings were real. They had families, jobs, plans for the following week, and in each case the lens captured something that investigators, juries, and the public have never been able to fully make sense of. Here are 5 terrifying deaths caught on security cameras that nobody can explain. It is late January 2013 at the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles, California. Elisa Lam is 21 years old, a student from Vancouver, British Columbia, traveling alone down the West Coast. She is bright, talkative, active online, the kind of young woman who texts her parents every day so they know she is safe. She checks into the Cecil, a budget hotel on Main Street with a long and grim history. And for a few days, everything is normal. Then, the daily messages stop. On the last day anyone hears from her, January 31st, 2013, her parents back in Canada do not get their call. They report her missing. The Cecil itself is part of the unease that follows. The building has been linked to decades of suicides and violent deaths, and at one point it was a known residence of serial killers. It is the kind of place that already carries a reputation before anything happens. So when a guest vanishes from inside it, the search takes on a particular weight. Elisa Lam had been moved at one point from a shared room to a private one, after other guests complained about her behavior. To her family, she was simply their daughter, careful and communicative, a young woman who kept a blog and stayed in touch. The shift in her, whatever it was, came on during a trip that was supposed to be an adventure. The Los Angeles Police Department searched the hotel, brought in dogs, checked the rooms and the stairwells and the roof. They found nothing. Days passed, then weeks. To generate public tips, on February 19, 2013, the LAPD released a clip of hotel surveillance footage. It is roughly 4 minutes long, taken inside one of the Cecil's elevators, and it is one of the most unsettling pieces of video ever made public in a missing persons case. In the footage, Elisa Lam steps into the elevator. She presses several of the buttons, what looks like every floor at once. The doors do not close. She steps to the side panel and into the corner, pressing herself flat against the wall as if she is hiding from someone in the hallway. She leans out, peers around the open doors, pulls back in. Her hands move in strange, deliberate gestures, fingers splayed, almost as if she is talking to a person who is not on camera. At times, she seems to be counting, or pleading, or waving something away. The doors never operate normally through any of it. Eventually, she walks out, and the elevator sits empty. The video went viral almost immediately. Millions of people watched it and came to their own conclusions. Some saw a young woman in the grip of a mental health crisis. Others saw something they could not name, and the internet filled with theories about what she was reacting to in that corner. The same day the footage was released, the answer to where she had gone arrived from an unexpected direction. Guests at the Cecil had been complaining for days about the water. It tasted strange. It ran black at times, and the pressure was low. A maintenance worker went up to the roof to check the building's water tanks, the large metal cisterns that supplied the hotel. Inside, one of them, submerged in the water that guests had been drinking and showering in, was the body of Elisa Lam. The questions began at once and never fully resolved. The roof of the Cecil was alarmed, accessible only by a locked door or by climbing the fire escape. The water tanks themselves were large, standing several feet tall, each sealed with a heavy lid that was not easy to open. For Elisa Lam to end up inside one, she would have had to reach a restricted roof, climb the tank, open a lid that workers described as difficult to lift, lower herself in, and have the lid settle back into place behind her. No one ever fully explained how a slight young woman did all of that alone. The autopsy was initially listed as inconclusive, while toxicology was completed. The eventual ruling was accidental drowning, with bipolar disorder cited as a significant contributing factor. Investigators concluded there was no foul play. Elisa Lam had a documented history of bipolar disorder and depression, and the working theory held that she experienced an episode at the Cecil and, in that state, made her way to the roof and into the tank. That is the official record, and it should be stated plainly. But an official ruling of accident does not answer the physical questions, and it does not explain the elevator video. It does not explain how the alarmed roof access was bypassed without triggering anything, or how the heavy tank lid ended up closed over her. The case became a fixture of internet investigation, the subject of documentaries and endless amateur analysis, much of it baseless. Through all of it, the core of the mystery stayed where it began. The footage remains exactly what it was the day it was released. A recording of the last clear sighting of Elisa Lam, behaving in a way no one has ever been able to fully account for. In the minutes before she climbed to a roof she should not have been able to reach. It is the early morning of April 18, 2016, at Creekside Church of Christ in Midlothian, Texas, a small city south of Dallas. The church is dark and empty. It is hours before dawn, and the building's interior security cameras are quietly recording motion-activated clips in the halls. What they capture over the course of roughly 20 to 30 minutes is a figure that has haunted investigators ever since. The figure walks the church's hallways in full tactical gear. Helmet, vest, the kind of outfit you would expect on a SWAT officer or a heavily equipped police unit. Across the chest, some accounts describe lettering resembling the word police. The person carries what looks like a hammer or a pry bar and moves through the building with a strange, unhurried purpose. The figure tries doors. It smashes panes of glass. It paces, lingers, disappears down one corridor and reappears in another. There's no sign of panic, no rush. Whoever this is seems to be waiting. At around 4:18 in the morning, Terry Leanne Bevers arrives. Everyone called her Missy. She is 45 years old, a fitness instructor, a wife, and a mother to 3 daughters. She runs early morning Camp Gladiator boot camp classes, and on this morning she has come to the church to set up for her 5 a.m. session. She lets herself in to a building that already has someone inside it, someone who has been moving through the dark for half an hour with a tool in hand. Missy Bevers never started her class. She was found dead inside the church, killed by multiple puncture wounds to her head and chest. A hammer was recovered near her body. Nothing was taken. Her purse and her iPad were left untouched, which told investigators almost immediately that this was not a burglary that went wrong. The conclusion that followed was harder to sit with. Missy Bevers appeared to have been targeted, and the figure on the camera, the killer caught on tape, was never identified. That is the part that has kept the case open for years. There is footage. The murderer is on it, walking around in good light for an extended stretch of time. And it has not been enough. The gear obscures everything. Police studied the figure's movement and gait, noting a distinctive way of walking. The feet turned outward, but even after analysis they could not determine the most basic fact about their suspect. They have never been able to confirm whether the person in the tactical gear was a man or a woman. The investigation was massive. More than 3,000 tips came in. The reward for information climbed to $150,000. A particular vehicle, a Nissan Altima recorded near the church around 2 in the morning, was examined and never conclusively tied to the crime. The church's exterior cameras, the ones that might have caught the figure arriving or leaving, were not functioning that day, which meant the only record of the killer was the interior footage in the halls. Investigators looked hard at the people in Missy Bevers' life. They examined relationships, finances, anyone who might have had a reason to want her dead. Nothing produced an arrest. The figure in the tactical gear has stayed exactly as anonymous as it was the moment it first walked into frame. Years have passed, and Midlothian police still take tips. The strangeness of the footage has kept the case alive in the public imagination for years. People have studied the figure's gear, the way it carried itself, the lettering on the vest, searching for the detail that finally cracks it open. None has. Missy Bevers left behind a husband and 3 daughters who have had to live with a particular kind of cruelty. There is a video of the person who killed her, anyone can watch it, and no one can tell them who it is. It is the night of September 8th into September 9th, 2017, at the Crowne Plaza Chicago O'Hare, a hotel in Rosemont, Illinois, just outside the city near the airport. Kenneka Jenkins is 19 years old. She has come to the hotel with friends for a party, the kind of late-night gathering that fills a couple of rooms with music and people. She left her family's home around 11:30 the night before. By the early hours, something has gone wrong, though no one watching at the time understands how wrong. In the hours that follow, her mother, Teresa Martin, cannot reach her. The friends Kenneka came with cannot account for where she went. As the search inside the hotel begins, hours pass. It is not until after midnight on September 10th, more than a day after she arrived, that staff find Kenneka Jenkins. She is in a walk-in freezer, in a kitchen, in an unused part of the hotel that was not in service that night. She is pronounced dead shortly after. The case detonated online almost immediately, and the reason was the footage. Rosemont police, facing intense public pressure and accusations against Kenneka's friends, took an unusual step. They released a very large amount of the hotel's surveillance video, roughly 36 hours of it, pulled from the property's network of 47 cameras. The idea was transparency, to let the public see what the cameras saw and put the rumors to rest. It did the opposite. The clips show Kenneka Jenkins alone, disoriented, stumbling. In the footage, she moves unsteadily through the hotel, at one point appearing badly impaired, weaving down corridors by herself. The last relevant clip shows her near the kitchen area, rounding a corner in the direction of the freezer. And then the trail goes cold, because the cameras do not clearly show what everyone most wanted to see. There is no clean footage of Kenneka Jenkins opening the freezer door and stepping inside. The most important moment, the one that would explain everything, is simply not on the tape. The Cook County medical examiner ruled the death accidental. The cause was hypothermia, with a blood alcohol level around 0.12 and the presence of topiramate, a medication she had not been prescribed, listed as factors that would have hastened the effects of the cold. The official conclusion was that Kenneka Jenkins, heavily impaired, wandered into a freezer on her own and could not get out. That is the ruling on the record, and honesty requires stating it. But the family did not accept it, and a great many people who watched the footage did not either. To them, the video raised more questions than it answered. How did an impaired teenager find her way into an unused kitchen and a walk-in freezer that should not have been accessible? Why were the gaps in the footage where they were? Why had it taken so long to find her in a hotel full of cameras? The release of all that surveillance, intended to settle suspicion, instead fueled a wave of online speculation, some of it aimed squarely at the friends she had been with that night. Teresa Martin rejected the accidental finding and fought it publicly for years. Eventually, a wrongful death lawsuit brought by the family was settled, with court records pointing to negligence around the security of that kitchen. The settlement closed the legal chapter. It did not close the question. The cameras recorded 36 hours, and the one moment that mattered most stayed off screen. It is October 8th, 2009, at a home in Eufaula, in eastern Oklahoma. Bobby Jamison is 44. His wife, Sherilyn, is 40. Their daughter, Madison, is 6 years old. They are an ordinary family with ordinary plans. They have been looking at a 40-acre piece of land near Red Oak, thinking about buying it and starting over somewhere quieter. On this day, they load up their truck and drive off to go look at the property. They are never seen alive again. What makes the Jamison case linger is the footage from their own home. The family had a security camera on the property, and it recorded them in the period before they left. The video shows Bobby and Sherilyn making trip after trip between the house and the truck, roughly 20 separate passes, carrying things out and loading them. There is nothing inherently strange about packing a vehicle. What is strange is how they look while they do it. Their movements are described as slow, silent, almost trance-like. Their expressions are flat and vacant. At times, they walk out to the truck and back, carrying nothing at all, going through the motion of the trip with empty hands. There is no sound of an argument, no obvious urgency, just two people moving back and forth with the dead-eyed calm of sleepwalkers while their 6-year-old daughter is somewhere in the frame of their last recorded day. The truck was found abandoned about a week later, parked on a remote dirt road in Latimer County, near Kinta, several miles from anywhere they had reason to be. What was inside it deepened the mystery rather than solving it. Their cell phones were there. Their wallets and identification were there. A GPS unit was there. The family dog, Maisie, was still in the truck, alive but starving. And in the vehicle, untouched, was roughly $32,000 in cash. Whatever happened to the Jamisons, no one robbed them. People do not walk away from a vehicle and leave $32,000 behind, along with their phones and their dog, by choice. The investigation that followed was long and produced no shortage of unsettling fragments. There were reports that a threatening note had been found in the truck. There was talk of family tensions, of money trouble, of a difficult period in the couple's lives, and of Sherilyn's interest in the spiritual and the supernatural. Some accounts described the family as fearing for their safety in the weeks before they vanished. Each thread seemed to promise an explanation, and each one led nowhere. There were searches across the rugged terrain of eastern Oklahoma, on foot, on horseback, and by air. None of it produced the family. For 4 years, the Jamisons were simply gone, and the home video of them loading the truck became the last clear image anyone had of them alive. In November 2013, hunters in the area came across skeletal remains. There were 3 sets, 2 adults and a child, found less than 3 miles from where the truck had been abandoned. In July 2014, officials confirmed what many had feared. The remains were Bobby, Sherilyn, and Madison Jamison, but the discovery answered only the question of where, not how. The bodies were far too decomposed by then for a cause of death to be established. There was no determination of how they died, no clear evidence of who, if anyone, was responsible. The case remains officially unsolved. The footage of 3 people moving like ghosts between a house and a truck is still, all these years later, the closest thing to an explanation anyone has, and it explains nothing. It is July 8, 2014, at Varna Airport on the Black Sea coast of Bulgaria. Lars Mittank is 28 years old, a German tourist who came to the resort town of Golden Sands for a holiday with friends. The trip should have been ending uneventfully. Instead, over the course of a few days, Lars Mittank's behavior had spiraled into something his friends and family could not recognize, and on this morning he runs into an airport surveillance frame and out of the world entirely. It had started with an injury. 2 days earlier, on July 6th, Lars was caught up in a fight that left him with a hurt jaw and a ruptured eardrum. He saw a doctor who advised him not to fly with the ear injury and prescribed an antibiotic, a drug in a class known to carry rare psychiatric side effects in some people. His friends flew home as planned. Lars stayed behind in Bulgaria alone to wait until it was safe to fly. That is when the change set in. Hotel footage from those days shows a young man coming apart. He paced the corridors. He looked out of windows as if checking for something. At one point, he is seen hiding inside an elevator. He phoned his mother and told her something that has hung over the case ever since. He said people were trying to kill him. He told her, in effect, that he did not think he would make it home, and asked her to cancel his bank cards if anything happened to him. This was not the relaxed, easygoing son she knew. Something had convinced Lars Mittank that he was in mortal danger, and nothing anyone said could talk him out of it. His mother, alarmed, traveled to Bulgaria herself, but by the time the search was organized, he was already gone. On the morning of July 8th, he went to the airport to try to fly home at last. There, he visited an airport medical office for a check before his flight. According to the doctor who saw him, Lars was nervous and erratic, clearly frightened. And then, with no warning, he bolted. He grabbed his backpack and ran out of the office. The airport's security cameras caught what came next, and it is the image the whole case rests on. Lars Mittank sprints out of the terminal building, backpack on, moving at a full run. He does not head for a road or a taxi. He runs to the edge of the airport grounds, reaches a perimeter fence around 2 meters high, and vaults straight over it. On the far side is open ground, a field, and he keeps running. He crosses it and vanishes in the direction of the trees beyond. The footage ends with the field empty. That clip, those few seconds of a terrified man clearing a fence and disappearing into the green, is the last confirmed sighting of Lars Mittank. He was never seen again. Despite years of searching, media attention, and a video that has been viewed many millions of times, no trace of him has ever been confirmed found. It is important to be precise about what this is. Lars Mittank is not a confirmed death. He is a disappearance. A man legally missing, presumed by many to have died somewhere in that countryside in the grip of whatever terror had taken hold of him. No body, no answer, no closure. Just a fence, a field, and a camera that watched him run towards something only he could see and never watched him come back.